On the 25th of July 1968, Pope Paul VI issued an encyclical called Humanae Vitae, a Latin phrase meaning of human life. The encyclical was written in answer to the development of the contraceptive pill in the 1960s and the new challenges this would bring to sexuality and marriage. It presents the beautiful vision that the Church has always held of the dignity of marriage and our ability to participate in God's creative work through our fertility. In fact, all Christian churches before the 1930s taught contraception was wrong. Humane Vitae reaffirmed the Church's enduring teaching that artificial birth control is not morally acceptable within this rich understanding of marriage and the creation of new life. This is what it said.
The transmission of human life is a serious issue for all people, especially married people.
In the transmission of human life, we collaborate freely and responsibly with God.
Fulfilling this call from Christ has always been a great source of blessing and joy, but it also poses problems to the conscience of married people, and recent technology and other changes in society have provoked new questions.
The Catholic Church can't ignore these questions, for they concern matters intimately connected with the life and happiness of human beings.
The changes include a rapid increase in population, causing fear that the world population might be growing faster than available resources.
The cost of living and education have gone up, making it hard to provide for a large family.
Also, there is a new understanding of the dignity of women and the role of love and sex in marriage.
These questions require from the Church, from the Catholic Church, a deeper reflection on the principles of the moral teaching on marriage.
A teaching which is based on the natural law.
And a teaching which is illuminated and also enriched by divine revelation.
But is the Church qualified to interpret the natural moral law?
Yes, the Church is qualified and competent in her magisterium, teaching authority, to interpret the natural moral law. It is in fact indisputable because Jesus Christ, when he communicated his divine power to Peter and the other apostles, sent them to teach all nations his commandments.
Jesus constituted them as the authentic guardians and interpreters of the whole moral law. In other words, not only the law of the gospel, but also the natural law.
In March 1963, and shortly before his death, Blessed Pope John XXIII established a pontifical commission on population, family and birth rate, reported more widely as the Birth Control Commission. Pope Paul then expanded membership of this commission twice.
Statements were taken from married couples and medical experts in fields relevant to regulating fertility, as well as theologians and priests.
The group's task was to examine views and opinions concerning married life and how to regulate the birth of children in a way consistent with human dignity.
The commission was to provide evidence that would enable the Catholic Church to give a reply in these matters, a reply the world was waiting for.
It has since been revealed that a number of those on the commission said the teaching on contraception was reformable. However, the arguments against were solid, strong, consistent with the teachings of the Catholic faith.
Pope Paul VI weighed all the evidence of this complex subject studiously. The encyclical was his response. This is what it said.
The true nature and nobility of married love is revealed when we recognise its origin from God, who is love.
Therefore, marriage is not the effect of chance.
It is an institution established by God the Creator. A husband and wife give a mutual gift of themselves,
specific and exclusive to them alone. So each and every marriage act must remain open to the transmission of life.
They develop that union of two persons in which they perfect one another,
cooperating with God in the generation and rearing of new life.
The marriage of those who have been baptised also receives sacramental grace, because marriage symbolises the union of Christ and his church.
Married love is fully human, engaging the senses and the spirit at the same time. It is not simply about instinct or emotion. It is principally the free decision to love.
Marriage is an act of free will, meant to survive the joys and the sorrows of life, but also to grow, so that husband and wife become one heart and one soul, and together attain their human fulfilment.
So it is a love which is total.
Yes, marriage is a very special form of personal friendship, in which husband and wife generously share everything not thinking solely of their own convenience.
This love means being able to enrich the other with a gift of oneself.
Married love, when freely and thoughtfully entered into, is faithful and exclusive until death.
The fidelity of a husband and wife can be difficult, but with God's grace, it is always possible. It is always honourable.
The example of so many married persons down through the centuries shows not only that fidelity is according to the nature of marriage itself, but also that it is a source of profound and lasting happiness.
Finally, this love is fruitful because it is not exhausted by the communion of husband and wife, but is destined to continue raising up new lives.
But what about responsible parenthood?
Husbands and wives need to practice responsible parenthood, which means understanding their bodies and respecting the gift of each other's fertility.
Couples need to assess their physical, economic, psychological and social needs when deciding to have additional children.
And choose to control their instincts and passions for the sake of love.
So the responsible exercise of parenthood requires that husbands and wives recognise their duties towards God, themselves, their families and human society.
God's intention is that sex be physically and spiritually fruitful in married love. Husbands and wives truly express their love for each other when their love reflects God's plan for human life.
God allows us the privilege of creating new life with Him.
The very nature of marriage and sex makes God's will clear, while the constant teaching of the Church affirms its beauty and its meaning.
But what if a married couple can't have children?
Even when a married couple cannot have children, their lovemaking still fully expresses the meaning of marriage because it remains ordained to giving life through the emotional and spiritual fruitfulness of their union.
God has wisely made our bodies in such a way that we are able to naturally space births by understanding a woman's body and her cycle.
New life is not the result of every act of sexual intercourse. The Church, nevertheless, teaches that every sexual act, in following the natural law, must retain its relationship to the procreation of human life.
Sexual intercourse has two inseparable and fundamental meanings:
The unitive meaning and the procreative meaning.
This particular truth, affirmed by the magisterium of the Church, is based on the inseparable connection established by God, which we can't break.
The intimate nature of sex closely unites husband and wife and enables them to generate new life. If one of these aspects is rejected, the full richness and meaning of giving yourself to your spouse is lost, because you are not giving all of who you are.
This is a natural law written into the nature of man and woman. And if each of these essential qualities, the unitive and the procreative, is preserved,
the sexual act fully retains its sense of true mutual love and its ordination to the supreme responsibility and calling of parenthood.
It is clear that sex imposed on one spouse, without regard to their condition, personal or even reasonable desire, is no true act of love.
It offends the moral order in the intimate relationship of spouses.
Therefore, an act of mutual love which rejects the capacity to create life, which God the Creator has built into it, frustrates His design for marriage and contradicts His will.
To use this divine gift of sex, while depriving it, even if only partially, of its meaning and purpose, is to contradict the nature of man and woman themselves and their most intimate relationship.
On the other hand, to experience the gift of married love and at the same time respect the gift of our fertility
Is to acknowledge that we are not the masters of life, but ministers of the design established by the Creator.
Just as we don't have unlimited power over our bodies, we don't have unlimited power over our sexual faculties. Why? Well, sex is all about the raising up of life, and God is the source of life.
Human life is sacred. From its very inception, it reveals the creating hand of God.
because of this understanding of marriage and the creation of life, the direct abortion of a human already developing is to be absolutely excluded as a lawful way of regulating birth.
Equally contrary to human dignity is direct sterilisation of a man or a woman, whether permanent or temporary.
Also excluded is any action which either before, at the moment of, or after sexual intercourse is specifically intended to prevent conception.
Are we able to justify when we should or shouldn't have children?
Yes, if there are well-grounded reasons for spacing births, arising from the physical or psychological condition of husband or wife, or from external circumstances, the Church teaches that married couples may then take advantage of the natural cycles of the reproductive system and engage in intercourse during those times that are infertile.
This is called natural family planning.
Or NFP, which controls birth in a way that respects the integrity and meaning of sex.
What is the difference between using contraception and natural family planning? Isn't the couple's intention the same?
No, there are essential differences between the two.
In NFP, a married couple legitimately uses the knowledge and understanding of their natural fertility. They may choose to abstain from sex during the fertile period and wait for the infertile period to express their mutual love and safeguard their fidelity.
Whilst contraception rejects fertility altogether and intentionally removes this dimension from the sexual act, denying the total gift of self.
Just how important this difference is can be understood by reflecting on the impact of denying our fertility on our thoughts and behaviour.
Consider how easy contraception has made it for people to be unfaithful to their spouse and to lower their sexual standards.
Also, a man who grows accustomed to the use of contraceptive methods may forget the reverence due to a woman. He disregards her physical and emotional needs, so there's the danger of reducing her to being a mere instrument for the satisfaction of his own desires. He no longer considers her as his partner, whom he should surround with care and affection.
Young men are particularly vulnerable and need encouragement to be faithful to the moral law, rather than being offered a means to evade it.
Not everyone will accept this particular teaching. There is lots of outcry against the voice of the Church, often intensified by the media.
But it is no surprise, because just like the world rejected the Church's founder Jesus, the Church too is destined to be a sign of contradiction.
In 2008, Pope Benedict XVI even called this topic so controversial, yet so crucial for humanity's future.
He said Humanae Vitae became a sign of contradiction, but also of continuity of the Church's doctrine and tradition. What was true yesterday is also true today.
Even so, the Church's duty is to proclaim with humble firmness the entire moral law and the dignity of the human person.
The Church did not make these laws, so she cannot be their arbiter, only their guardian and interpreter. It would never be right for the Church to declare lawful that which is opposed to the true good of humanity.
In preserving intact the whole moral law of marriage, the Church knows that she is contributing to the establishment of a truly human civilization.
She urges us not to betray our own humanity by using technologies that are not in keeping with our dignity.
In this way, the Catholic Church defends the dignity of husband and wife and is the true friend of humanity by its loyalty to the example and teaching of our Saviour, Jesus Christ.